what I've learned in PED 1. In week 1, we tackled about the human development. When we talk about the human development, it refers to the physical, cognitive, and psychosocial development of human. And it tells that cognitive development involves learning, attention, memory, language, thinking, reasoning, and especially creativity. Then in week 2, we tackled about the stages of development and developmental tasks. It tells that for every development stage, there is an expected developmental task, and these are the prenatal period. It involves tremendous growth. First, infancy, from birth to 2 years. It's time of extreme independence on adult. Early childhood next, with infancy 5 to 6 years. It tells us these are the preschool years, and it tells that children learn to become more self-sufficient. Next, middle and late childhood 6 to 11 years of age, and it tells that the fundamental skills of reasoning, writing, and arithmetic. The next, adolescence from 10 to 12 years. These are the physical changes of the body. The next, early adulthood from late teens on early 20s, lasting through 30s. It is time to establish personal and economic. The next, middle adulthood, 40 to 60 years of age. It is time of expanding personal and social involvement and responsibilities. Lastly, late childhood, 60 years and above. It is time for adjustment to decreasing strength and health. In week 3, we also tackled about teachers as consumers and users of research. Teachers as researcher. Teachers are the one who make policy, important knowledge to use in decision, and for the benefit of the learner. Then next, in week 4, we tackled about Sigmund Freud's psychosexual theory. It is called psychosexual stages because each stages represent the fixation and different area of the body. In week 5, we also tackled about stages of cognitive development. This theory of development is truly a classic. It's focused on how individuals construct knowledge. And we have the basic cognitive concept. These are the schema or schema, assimilation, accommodation, and lastly, equilibration. Then in week 6, we also tackled about the Erik Erikson psychosocial theory of development. It tells that Erik Erikson was a German born. Erikson not only put sexual and aggressive impulses into a larger context but also added adult stages to the course of development. Then in week 7, we also tackled Kohlberg's theory of moral development. He is a psychologist who was born in New York, and he believed that moral development depended on moral reasoning and was learned in 3 levels. The levels are the pre-conventional reasoning, conventional reasoning, and post-conventional reasoning. Then in week 8, Vygotsky's social culture theory, who believe that parent is a caregivers, peers, and the culture at large were responsible for developing high-ordered function. They are the one who is the caregiver. And in week 9, we also tackle the Bronfenbrenner's ecological theory. Bronfenbrenner believed that a person's development was affected by everything in their surrounding. That is what Bronfenbrenner's ecological theory. And in week 10, we also tackled about prenatal period. We have the stages of prenatal development. First, the germinal period. It means it includes the creation of the zygote. Then second, the embryonic period. It tells that the zygote will become embryo. Then in week 11, we tackled physical development of infant and toddlers. It tells that the period that comes after prenatal or antenatal stage is infancy, which turn into toddlerhood. Then toddlerhood to span the first 2 years of life. In week 12, we also tackled about the cognitive development of infant and toddlers. It tells that physical growth and change is easily observed and measured in processed terms such as in inches, and infants' cognitive changes and development is a little harder to admire as early. In week 13, we also tackled about socio-emotional development of infant and toddlers. It means it is said that importance of the first 3 years in human development, they are so called the formative years, where areas the parent caregivers her significant rule. Then the week 14, we tackled about the preschoolers physical development. It tells that the preschoolers years is commonly known as the years before formal schooling begins, and it is very important as it lays foundation to later development. Then lastly, in week 15, we tackled about the cognitive development of preschooler. And I learned that early childhood is just one stage of childhood. So that is what I've learned from week 1 to week 15. We have many topics. We have a lot of learnings in this subject.